And as some of the politicians are just in the beginning in the audiences, so we should address that message already to them in the first speech. And therefore I invite Dr. Rauno Väisänen, the Professor, Executive Director of Parks and Wildlife in Finland recently. And he's also one of the medalists from EUROPARC Federation, recently got the highest award from this network. And with 40 years of experience being in politics connected with that, there is a good message you can address to all of us. The floor is yours, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So I will speak about influencing politics. My experience of Parks people, is that most of you are doing very good, hard work. You are decent, kind of innocent people, but very often you overlook politics. I don't know why, but I think that I try to tell you why it's important to try to influence and what should be done and how it could be done. First, politics cover a wide range of different kind of activities associated with governance of a country or an area, very different relations between people living in a society. And we very often think that it's just about government and parliament, but it has different levels from international to municipal, local level, and different sectors. So I think that there are something for everybody, something that is important for everybody, and there are a lot of possibilities to influence. My first message is that politicians do a very important work. Very often people think that politics is just something like dirty business, but politicians and politics cover so many fields, and people try to influence actions, practices, and policies, and usually the basic thing is that they try to improve something, somebody's status or make some progress in some things that are somehow in not good situation. And one important characteristic is that there are different competing interest groups, and they are competing. In fact, in the real work, it's unfortunately so that from our point of view, the good guys don't always win, and the problem is that it may be your fault. That's the kind of problem. So I think that we should do something. And what should be done? Parks people should influence political activities, practices, and policies. Think about financing. That's very important. And at least at the level of national parks, nature reserves, and other protected areas. And it should be done in a effective and systematic way. And we should not become part of the politics in the sense that everybody should have a party membership or something like that. And I mean that we should not include our own political opinions, party political opinions or sympathies to this work. But at the same time, we should not lose our kind of professional values and priorities in this work. So we should be sure that what we are doing is that we are really doing a good job and the results are fine. Otherwise, it's very difficult to convince politicians. But I think that, unfortunately, very often we stop at that level. And that's really a stupid way to allocate your resources. we need credible evidence that the results really are good. That's why we need this visitation statistics, we need conservation results, we need information about the economic benefits, impact on employment, health, etc. And these results have to be communicated to the decision makers. And it's also very important that the decision makers just not have heard about these matters, but they also understand what it means to their own agendas, how our work promotes sustainable development and how our work contributes to the resilient society. And finally, especially if there are difficult times or some key decisions, we should also be able to guarantee that we have a majority backing us on our side, at least enough votes for that. And that's also very difficult, but I try to give you some ideas how it's possible. First, I think that we have to look at, need to have a look at the mirror. I think that we should respect the work of politicians. That's my first kind of point. And it would be very useful to integrate political influence into our own work plans. And politicians don't want to listen some kind of nonsense. So when you contact politicians, you need to have clear visions, priorities, proposals for actions, very concrete proposals with a price tag. And it's also very important that you think about, go out of the box, think about the bigger picture, analyze trends in the society and prospect future developments in the society. So it's easier to communicate. And it's important to be international. Use your networks like EUROPARC. Then you are a step ahead. And I think that everybody should be aware of our own position in this kind of own role in this kind of political ecosystem. And divide the world even with your team members and so on. Of course, it's important to investigate concrete ways to influence. And I think that one good starting point is to build up a wider constituency. Try to find friends. There are many friends in the ministries, NGOs, academia, and so on. And you always will need those friends, and you should not remember them, forget them. And then you should analyze and optimize your networks, since like media and so on, since concerted actions are much more efficient than isolated efforts. You should avoid generalizations. For instance, political parties, they are not anything like monoliths. Since I'm a zoologist, I may say this, that for me, I think when I think about a political party, I think of like a troop of monkeys or a congress of baboons. They are full of internal competition and emotions, and they are opportunities for us. It's also necessary to be patient. Political situations change quite fast, unlike the things in the parks usually. And so you have to just wait. Sometimes the windows will be open, and then you should use the opportunity. And it's necessary just to try to understand different people. So true interest to the politicians too. So the key ways to influence politics or how it could be done, I think that it's very important to start from the public at large, but that's too large. It's impossible to cover everything if you don't use efficiently media. The second thing is that you should go to the political parties and interest groups, and the third one is, of course, the politicians. It's good to remember that politicians always calculate whether they will win or lose votes. So think about how your work relates to that, and then just get started. It's just work. It's not difficult, and you will learn by doing. The first step, in my opinion, is to start with the media relationship, and usually it's normal time, not any problems, so prepare a good communication strategy and a concrete communication program and start to implement them. It's also useful to create a kind of continuous flow of positive and neutral news, all kind of small, nice things, little things from the parks, everything you are doing, publish it. It's important. People are interested in these things, and they encourage positive emotions in the society, and they increase your visibility and credibility. And that's the kind of social capital you will need, especially when there will be bad times. And there may be bad times from time to time. And when there is a crisis, it may be a kind of war. So be opportunistic, wise and patient. Just continue what you are doing, increase it, update it, but remember that communications play a key role in this. Don't hesitate to fight when needed. These politicians are kind of predators. They just seek an easy and weak prey. And if you are easy and weak, then you are prey. And since it's a war, try to split the enemies. Celebrate victories, but don't provocate. Do it behind the closed doors. And when you lose a battle, be a brachioderm, like an elephant or something, or play a possum, but never give up. And remember that every political battle is a learning opportunity. Then it's very easy to go to the parties, political parties, meet them and different interest groups, study their politics, programs, priorities, visit the snake caves. They are not so scary, it's just ordinary people. And use your own communication networks beforehand, and try to build up an impartial, credible role for your organization. Like something like army or police or something like that, I think, at least my experience, that works. And build trust and try to affect their policies, practices and activities, especially if you are able to write their programs or speeches or something like that. They very often ask things like that, and then take the opportunity. And use the parks. It's your secret weapon. It's also important to meet individual politicians. Then you have to do your homework. Check their priorities, interests, social media, personal information, and respect their achievements. They usually love themselves. So tell them that you have noticed that they have done this wonderful thing, and they will like you. And show confidence, not arrogance. There are good role models here, like our president, Ignaz. Confident, that's fine. Adjust your language. If you are talking to Communist Party, don't speak business marketing. It's not good language. Or European Union language if you are talking with the ultra-right-wing party. It's not a good thing. You can use different wordings. just the same story, but a little bit different works. And be credible, avoid being a green hippie. That's the worst thing, because the Greens are usually supporting the parks as well. Buy a smart dress or something and go to the right-wing party. I think that is good. But anyway, build a trust and it may pay back. Also be kind and help the politicians. Nothing special, but do them a favor if you can, something small. And prepare concrete proposals. It's not so important it's your proposal, but it's more important that you get the money, so that it's better that they propose it somewhere. And use the parks creatively, invite politicians to different events. They very often are willing to come. And if you are invited to an event, go there and socialize, small talk, that's easy, just social capital coming in. You become richer and your parks will survive. Okay, and if you are really brave, you may try to get your own moles into the parties and interest groups. It's also, it takes more time, but it may be useful. And the last comment about politicians is that, well, never trust them too naively. It's necessary to play their game. No hard feelings, you know it. It's, well, such happens. And so with these kind of instructions, I would say that just let's get started. It's just work. It's not that difficult. It may even be fun. And by following these simple instructions, you may be able to save your parks, get more money, and increase your social influence, improve, contribute to the long-term sustainability and things like that. So that was all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Kiitos. Thanks a lot. That was excellent to speak about Congress of Baboons and how to influence, or in such a peaceful manner to say that fight, this is the war. But at the same time, when we get really serious and are thinking about the gaps between what we have in long-term plans, and there are really good things from the politicians and probably from advisors, good advisors, that it's written down, it's there, but in the reality there's this gap that actually those practices, they are not resource-based or they are not leading. How do you think how we can try to close those gaps between nice words on the paper and real agendas with money and mud, that it creates some kind of better division?
I think that it's necessary to start from somewhere, do something small. And in fact, if you start from like at local level, this kind of grassroots level information is often very kind of much valuated by the politicians. I have been told hundreds of times that that some politicians agree with me because somebody from the countryside, from their electoral area, has called them and said that this is a good thing, even though it may be somebody from our staff members. But anyway, it works. And the other thing is that think about these friends. There are good friends in the ministries. They usually work in the interface between the politicians and the others, and so they may give you good ideas what to do. And the same with NGOs who are usually living with this kind of difficult situations.
Right. Respect and work closer. Could we just share the Slido, as I know that there are some of the questions here. We are a bit behind the schedule of time, but as we just practice how does it work, and if we look inside the questions from the audience, there were some commentaries on the very first speeches. There were some questions addressed to the speaker here, and probably if you open that environment for you, you can rate the questions and you can raise importance of them at the same time. We will use that even more later on when we just start to warm up and see how does it work as a system. But otherwise, yeah, I should say thank you for the first presenter, and we should go to the next session. So applause for presenting the politics.